About 7 years ago, I was working in the shipping receiving department at a rubber factory. The factory suddenly went through some corporate level changes and had to lay off a large number of employees. I survived the cut, but it meant I had to wear several new hats and fill in anywhere as needed. One day, my supervisor approached me and said, "We're gonna need you to go help Rhonda in the paint department for a while. We're running way behind on inserts." First off, I didn't even know we had a paint department. Second, I thought I knew everyone in the company. I had worked there for a year at that point. Who the hell is Rhonda? Without getting a moment to prepare, I was told to immediately follow my supervisor to this mysterious paint department. Now, this was not a huge factory, but it was pretty long. The building consisted of 5 press rooms, all separated by a long hallway. Press rooms, followed by the material mixing department, and finally, the maintenance department. That's all I was aware of at the time. As we got closer to the end, the lighting got dimmer, and the atmosphere became generally filthy. Everything around me was oily, dusty, and neglected. It was a part of the building no one cared about. Once we passed the maintenance area, it was the end of the building. To my left was a dark area where they charged the backup forklifts, the old busted up ones. And to my right was a little room in the corner. It was cluttered up to eye level on all sides, with rotten boxes, rags, and random factory tools. The back corners were completely dark, and if I had dared to look, there was probably old paperwork stored there from 20+ years ago. It was like a forgotten cave. In the middle of all the mess was Rhonda, sitting at a little wooden table surrounded by buckets of small metal inserts. I may be unfairly generalizing here, but the only way to describe Rhonda would be the definition of trailer trash. She was quite skinny, and almost had the physique of a woman in her 20s, but her complexion, gait, and demeanour was of a weathered woman in her 50s. She looked like she'd been through 2 bouts of hell. The few teeth she had were almost brown, and her gums were black. Imagine dirty Tic Tacs shoved into hot tar. Every time she let out a raspy laugh, which she did often, I was treated to a view of her chompers, followed by an expected foul-mouthed stench. Her whole aroma was like a mix of wet, mouldy bathroom and a Walmart ashtray. For the next uncertain amount of time, my job was to sit at a little wooden table facing Rhonda and dip metal inserts into paint chemicals. Despite her being one of the most off-putting humans I'd ever met, I was able to at least carry on basic small talk. She actually never stopped talking. It was usually about what you might expect: deadbeat relatives, money she owed, her drinking days, and she used the word motherfucker constantly, at the beginning and end of most sentences. At first it was kind of interesting listening to her ramblings, because her general existence was so insanely different than mine. But after a while, I began to really sense something dark and creepy about Rhonda. It might sound stalkerish, but I almost began studying her like a sociological experiment. I started taking mental notes, and I noticed she had an old plastic coffee mug with the name Leon XXXX scratched onto it. She also mentioned having a boyfriend and an ex-husband. I eventually gained enough info to do some sleuthing, and that's when things got strange. It turns out, Rhonda spent 10 years in prison, from 1992 to 2002, for 28 counts of incest, first-degree sexual assault on a child. Okay, immediately, that was a little more intense than I expected. But it gets weirder. I also found out she had filed for divorce in 2005. After doing some more research, I found that her husband did some time back in the 1980s for soliciting prostitution from a minor. Apparently, he tried to bribe a woman with $20, a new outfit, and dinner in exchange for sex with her 16-year-old daughter. And finally, I decided to look up Leon, quadruple X. Leon had recently been charged with 21 counts of child pornography and photographing minors without their consent. Unfortunately, I had to continue to work face to face with this disgusting woman for a few more weeks. Just imagining the thoughts floating around in her mind disturbed me every day. The things she's done, the things she's seen. I'm sure there were other people in her family, friends, that also had similar records. And there were probably some that had never gotten caught. A family of, maybe, inbred, filthy, incestual beasts. I couldn't believe all the depravity I had found in Rhonda's history. Thankfully, I was able to go back to shipping and receiving pretty quickly, and I left that job not long after. I've worked with my share of weirdos since then, but nothing will ever come close to what I experienced with Rhonda. When I was a kid, about 9, my mom took me and my brother, about 6, to a thrift store. She enjoyed going to thrift stores for some reason. Maybe it was the cheap prices or the opportunity to find something rare. Of course, shopping at thrift stores kind of involved us going to the bad side of town. Well, on this day, my mom had begun browsing through the store for something she might find of interest, when she realizes she's forgotten her wallet in the car. She hands us her keys and instructs us to go to the car and get her wallet for her. So me and my brother do just that. We go out to the car, grab her wallet, and turn around to start walking back. Just as we turn around to head back to the store, we notice this dirty homeless-looking guy, in retrospect an obvious addict, walking towards our direction while mumbling. We could tell from the look in his eyes that we had his attention. My brother then tells me to just walk fast back to our mom. Being the older one, I felt the need to seem brave. I told my brother that we were fine, but agreed that it'd be best to begin walking back. Luckily, that guy was coming from the side of the thrift store, so we had a clear shot to the front door. We began walking to the door when we hear the guy call out to us. We ignored it and kept walking. Just as we're halfway to the door, the guy calls out again, but louder and clearly directed at us, as they refer to us boys walking ahead of him. As if it wasn't bad enough that we were the only ones outside, this guy begins pointing it out and asks us where our parents were. For no reason other than being naive, I stopped, turned around, and answered that our mom was inside. He laughed and, as if I were bluffing, attempted to call me out on it. At the time, I didn't understand why he would even think I would be lying. My brother quickly told me not to stop walking and not to answer him, at which point I felt the same panic he did, and finally understood that getting to our mom was now a priority. The guy then began saying that we seemed like we were by ourselves and instructed us to go to him. Obviously, at this point I ignored him and just began walking faster towards the store. I could then hear him beginning to walk towards us at a fast pace. We opened the door to the thrift store and bolted through the store looking for my mom. I remember that as we opened the door, he flat out told us that going inside wasn't going to stop him, and that he would follow us inside. I felt sheer panic when I heard him say that and raced to find my mom. My brother and I remained close, but kind of spread out for more coverage. I was having trouble finding my mom when I looked at the door and saw the guy begin to open it. My heart began to race, and a sense of hopelessness was sinking in, when all of a sudden I hear my brother call out that he had found my mom. I raced to my mom and began explaining everything. She, of course, brushed it off, saying that nothing was going to happen. I looked over and hear this guy talking to the front desk cashier, claiming that his 2 boys had just ran in and that he was looking for them. The lady told him that she did not see any kids run in. He then turns around and spots us. He takes a step towards us, and then realizes we're grabbing onto our mom. Now, I would think at this point the guy would give up, but no. He calls out to my mom to ask if we're hers. My mom looks at him, and he again asks if we're her kids. My mom tells him yes, and begins looking at him and back at us, semi-surprised by the situation. The guy then says, "Sorry, I have nephews that look just like them and I thought they were them. I just wanted to say hi." I quickly yell out that he was lying, and had asked us if we're alone. The guy, unfazed by what I said, then turns around and begins walking out the door like nothing happened. My brother and I begin telling my mom it was that guy that had followed us and was trying to kidnap us. My mom then brushed it off, saying the guy left already anyways, and that it was probably a misunderstanding. I felt angry that the guy had gotten away with harassing us and that, if it wasn't for my mom actually being there, he would have gotten away with kidnapping 2 kids without a problem. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to episode 35. Thanks for all the great comments you give me on the videos this week. It's really nice to see that all the extra uploads are being appreciated, and you're enjoying them as much as I am making them. As promised, episode 36 will be up tomorrow. I actually recorded it about the same time I recorded this one, so I could leave myself lots of extra time to work on my bigger upload for Friday. I've actually got all the stories I need for that now. At the moment, I think it's 20. It might be a little more by the time it's uploaded, because between now and actual final recording of the video, some more people might say yes. Not everyone checks their Reddit accounts every day. But I've got some good stuff in there for you anyway. So, until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take good care of yourselves.